All right, welcome. My name is Donald, and this is MobTV. I have a very fantastic person today. I have one of the most beautiful. Sorry, has anyone told you that you look so beautiful today?
Every day.
Every day, somebody tells you that.
Yes.
He needs to go to heaven first of all because he's always saying the truth. All right, I have Prada Uzodinma. She is a lawyer. She is everything a young girl wants to be. Thank you so much, Prada, for this opportunity. I really do appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. How best can you describe yourself?
I'll describe myself in 3 bullet points, like it is in my social media handles, which is lawyer, humanitarian, and friend.
Hope he's not police, he's your friend, he's not that kind of friend.
No. The reason why I say that is because I like to be very accommodating, right? I like people to be able to come up to me, with their problems or for advice, or even those that I mentor or those that look up to me to have access to me. That's why I say friend. So if you're talking to me, look at me like a friend that you're talking to.
Okay, so you're open to people. That's what the friend
Exactly.
stands for. All right. And you're a lawyer
Yes.
in Nigeria. What gave rise to your foundation?
Which one?
The Law Foundation, the one you're trying to empower people who are not able to make it to law school. What gave rise to that?
So I'm a lawyer. So when I finished my studies, I had to come back to Nigeria to get called to the bar here in Nigeria to be able to practice, right? And I did my law school in Abuja here in Buhari. So while doing that process, I discovered that a couple of people were having difficulties paying the tuition fees, and they were not able to write their exams if they hadn't paid the tuition fees. So for my year, what we had to do was, as a class, donate to those people that could not meet the bar and pay their fees. So I thought, what, there are so many people that are going to come after my set, even before my set, that are going to have this issue of not being able to pay their tuition fees, and that's going to stop the process of them being called to bar. So I thought, what, why not do that? Because there are so many scholarships that are out there, but those scholarships focus on the smartest students, right? They're trying to give those scholarships out to those that have the first class and stuff like that. And I understand that sometimes if I'm working a job, trying to raise a particular amount of money for my fees, I might not have all the time to read my books. So I might not make that first class, but I know that I want to be a lawyer. So I thought, why not make my scholarship different and try to focus on indigent students? So students that cannot afford the fees, not necessarily the brightest students or the first class students. And that is what gave birth to it.
Okay, so what you're saying is, there is a saying that says, examination is not a test of knowledge. So you believe that those who had the C or the third, fourth, fifth, there's still brightness in them. Maybe
Yeah.
situation did not give them that opportunity to
Exactly.
bring it out. So you try to help them come to life.
Yeah, and even if you look at it, the best of lawyers today didn't make it first class.
Oh.
All our Leonard Silks and SANs didn't make it first class. Most of them got, I think, a 2 and a 3rd, right? So I think law is beyond just going to law school and coming out. There's much more to it when you come out and actually practice it in reality.
So in that journey, can you tell us about that journey so far?
One thing I know for sure as a young lawyer is that, going into practice is not easy. I think when we're in law school, we're all very passionate about getting done with law school and going straight into practice, because of maybe what we've read or what we studied, and we're so quick to try and apply that. But the truth is, coming out as a young lawyer, you might not always get the opportunity, depending on the law firm that you are, or even if you decide not to go into legal practice, if you decide to maybe go into the corporate side of things, working for an organization as a corporate lawyer, I think things are not what we expect, So I think it takes you actually coming out as a lawyer, experiencing it to actually understand what it feels like to be a young lawyer. So even sitting down here today, I cannot describe or explain how another young lawyer might feel. I can only talk from my own experiences, which might not necessarily represent someone else's experiences. But I think it's something that you have to experience for yourself as a young lawyer, especially if you decided to go into practice.
Okay, so for the NGO, how have you been dealing with funding? Because I know funding is always a thing. So how?
In terms of funding, PUSG, which is a short form of the Prada Uzodinma Law School Scholarship Grant, started in 2021. It is an annual program. So this is something that we hope to do every year. I think last year we had about 5 aspirants at the bar that we were able to sponsor. This year we're looking at sponsoring about 10, 15 people. What we tried to do this year was to open up the sponsorship so that people can actually donate, to sponsor a student per se. And I think the fees for calling to buy is about 300,000 naira for just the tuition fees. So I'm not even asking the sponsors to give me the whole money, even if you can bring 10, 20, but as long as you know that your donation is going towards the tuition fees of a aspiring lawyer, I think that's just it. So this year we opened it up to accommodate sponsors.
Let's move a little bit to the bigger scale, judiciary. In Nigeria today, the average citizen of Nigeria who does not have Father Abraham does not have any faith in the judiciary. I think, or from the general populace, they've lost faith. And judiciary ought to be the faith of the poor masses. How would you respond to that?
I think the thing is, I think I can say like I've been on both sides, right? The receiving end and also going to court. So I think everybody in Nigeria knows that judiciary takes time. Going to court is a very tedious and slow process. But, and I think most people like to use a very famous quote that says justice delayed is almost justice denied, right? If I'm going to court for something that's happening to me presently and I need an answer presently, if that situation is being denied for 5-10 years, sometimes this status quo becomes irrelevant, right? But this is how I like to look at it. The fact that something is delayed or the fact that the justice system has issues doesn't mean that you should completely abandon it, because you need to be able to have legal standing in everything that you do, even if it's immediate or afterwards, right? And the masses don't want to approach the courts because they say, okay, maybe there's a lot of corruption, but the way we've been able to...
But is there no corruption?
Nigeria is corrupt, right? That is the statement that has been put out to Nigeria, and Nigeria is corrupt.
But is it a factual statement?
I think there's corruption in every country.
Yeah, no, we're talking
right?
about Nigeria.
I think the media plays too much into the corruption of Nigeria.
And
I think it's built on international forces. So what we do in Nigeria is how, for example, the white man paints us is how we like to accept ourselves. There are countries that are more corrupt than Nigeria,
No doubt, we are dealing with Nigeria, and often when we talk about Nigeria, people try to make instances. I had somebody here who made several excuses because he took United States a number of large years to evolve to where they are democratically. And I'm of this opinion that why do we need to crawl that way in this time? It took US that long. They didn't have the technologies that we have right now. So why can't we speed things up since we have a better environment and opportunity to do better? So Nigeria is corrupt and is affecting us. So in dealing with that, the law, the judiciary, which ought to be the hope of the poor masses, because I think in the 3 arms of government, the only one that can hold them by the balls and hold them stand still is the judiciary. Because it's the law.
I'll give you my perspective on the whole situation of Nigeria being corrupt. I don't even think Nigeria is corrupt. I think Nigerians are corrupt. Nigeria is just the geographical landmass, right, of the country. And people only tend to focus on corruption that happens in the top spaces, like when they refer to like our courts are corrupt. But no one tends to focus on corruption that happens in our everyday environment, right? From me tipping up that policeman to let me beat traffic or take it one way, to just doing the little basic things. So when we say Nigeria is corrupt, we should look into ourselves. How are we buying into the corruption? Are we playing a part of the corruption?
No, the thing is, I like to look at things holistically, right? So in a sequence of events, there is a hierarchy. Everywhere, things flow from the top to the bottom. I think it's only grace that lifts you from bottom to top. So things go from top to bottom. Now, in leadership, when we see our leaders, the way they behave, the way they live their life, we emulate. So when we see them as standard, status symbol, we see them as standard, we want to be. So we see somebody who is a House of Assembly member And he was just a street guy like us. We were just chilling together. He becomes House of Assembly member. He now has brand new, goes on 15 cars convoy and paints the town red and black under 1 year. And that's become success to the densely uneducated people. How do you expect them to behave otherwise? When they're selling corn, they also want to build a mansion. When they manage to buy a car, like you talk about tipping the policeman, and they're on traffic, the leader comes and breaks the traffic. And the federal road safety, the police people there, they can't do anything. So tomorrow, unconsciously, if the leader is held liable, I will become very complex. I will look at myself as inferior. Why? If they can catch a leader, which means I'm going to jail, I'll comport myself. Do you understand? So I think this things trickle from top to.
So are you saying that because we see examples of people, getting away with disobeying the law, we should emulate and disobey the law?
Yes. And why did I say that? It is in human behavior. We emulate what we see. For instance, kids. If you tell a child, don't, you're talking story. It is that thing you do. I hope you've seen children.
Your actions is what they emulate.
They will now come to you and say, shut up, go and pick it up. These are the things you are telling them, shut up, go and pick it up. They're now telling it to you too. Because they learn by what they see. Not really necessarily, life is about imitate. We emulate, we imitate.
So why don't we emulate the person that actually waits for the traffic lights? Why don't we emulate the person that actually doesn't throw trash out their car? I'll tell you something. You brought up the scenario of a child. There's hardly any law that's going to convict a child for doing something, but there are laws that convict adults for doing stuff.
No, I brought up the child to say, okay, emulate. People emulate.
Yes.
Like we learn by observing.
Exactly.
Now, the lawyer, the person who is in the government is a symbol of law. For instance, first of all, before being any other thing, you're a symbol of law.
Okay.
You are what law should be.
Because they're in government.
Because they're leaders. Leaders express law. If the leaders are good, automatically. I've never seen a country with good leaders with bad people.
Questionable. But I'll tell you this, right? What is my end point?
You're talking about that masses should also do good.
No, what I'm trying to say is, I think most states in Nigeria and all over the world, the moment you're 16 and 18, you should already know the difference between good or bad, right? There are different sorts of role models out there, right? Good role models or controversial role models. So as an adult, I think it's left for you to decide the path that you want to go. I would not say because of majority is going down a wrong path, I, as an individual, must follow them towards that wrong path. These are what we call values that our parents try to instill in us when we're young. Avoid peer pressure. So I won't say because all my mates are in school smoking and drinking and not studying, I would go do that, right? Because majority is doing that. No, that is where you come in. And I feel like we need more people to actually choose to do right in Nigeria for there to be a change. We cannot just look to our leaders to change the country. That is impossible. It takes the whole population to actually have the right mindset. Look at Nigerians where they go to countries like, for example, Dubai, which has a proper working system, and you hear of Nigerians misbehaving. That tells you that the corruption that you tag Nigeria of is not in the country, but in the person, in the Nigerian himself. So we as Nigerians need to decide to take the right step always.
I agree with you. What happened in Dubai, the machete? You heard about the machete?
There have been different instances of Nigerians.
Yeah, but do you know the particular machete thing?
I think.
Okay, there was one they saw some boys with machete.
Okay.
Breaking windows of cars and all that.
Okay.
And I think that was what led to this recent ban and the deportation, right? In a forum I said something. I said, these are people who were cultists in universities in Nigeria. Okay. The mentality, you're talking about mentality. The mindset is that they carry machete and cut down plantains and cut people and cut trees in their cut activities. Because they were able to sell one piece of land and afford a ticket to Dubai. Did it change anything? In that tall building, beautiful Dubai, they are still seeing plantain to cut. It's here. So these people, teeming youth, come out of the university and those on the street, they have nothing to do. They are not engaged. They are not in any way, no sensitization of any sort. Then the ones that try to be good, the system works critically against them. For instance, look at the banking system, the POS. It's another source of revenue, another banking on its own. We have, you see what CBN released, right? 100,000 in a week.
Withdrawal.
That will shut down POS. It will. Those, it's their future. Those is their means and source of income. Those who studied law, like you, engineering, no job, they are using this to, how are they going to cope?
Okay, let me give you an example. I completely understand what you're saying. You know, as a youth, as an entrepreneur, I'd like to be able to carry out my business in a stable working environment. Nigeria does not provide that, right? But let's look at it like this. I don't know if you're religious, but how many years did it take the Israelites to get to the promised land?
40.
That's a lot of years, right?
We are past 40.
Look at it like this. We want progress. I think this even goes back to the whole ban, importation of rice and all of that, and everybody complaining. We want progress, right? We know where we're going. So there are certain sacrifices and compromises that we must make to get there. Look at the POS as one of them, right? That is why I said we as Nigerians need to come out and always make the right decision. We're in an election cycle right now, right? And we're going to be electing leaders soon. But even the masses that you speak of are going to elect leaders based on those that feed their pockets, not based on those ideologies that they actually want to follow, right? So when I say make the right decision, it's left for you to actually make the right decision, regardless of if you don't get that short chain that they are sharing, if you don't get that bag of rice or that material. You need to be able to go through that compromise for your long-term interest, right? Which is what most Nigerians are not willing to do. That is why we keep on having this cycle over and over again. Okay,
don't misunderstand the fact that maybe I stand for the masses or I'm speaking for them. But in a way, or in a society where things work, like I've always said, things work from top to bottom. When you know human behavior is complex. It's not something you can predict, right? And human emotion is always changing. So human beings behave different ways. But if you know that there is a court, there is a law that will hold you, you comport yourself, not because you want to comport yourself, but because you're scared of the consequences that are bound to happen. So you talk about this, we should be able to sacrifice a little and enjoy more, right? In little sacrifice, just like I told you about POS, what did they replace it with? Is there an enabling environment? How do you absorb these people that you're rendering jobless? In a bid to tell them to suffer a little to enjoy more, what did you deviate them to? Is it debt? Is it criminality? Because unemployment will beget more criminality. And in the police side of the bargain, the security, don't even go there about the insecurity. Then the law too, that balances it up too. So that's what I'm talking about. The law, I keep mentioning the judiciary, which it is your field, and is our hope. If, like you said, if lawyers say, and you people have an association that used to be very reputable, MBA. Once you hear MBA, it's as though you are a disciple of Jesus in those days. Like if not, and they now put it in your car, MBA. Even police will be, but these days we see police molest lawyers, slap them, and still tell them I will lock you up. Do you understand? I think the decadence is much. The only hope is judiciary. I keep saying that. If judiciary says no, these people cannot do otherwise.
You think so? I think so. This is what I think is the problem in Nigeria. It's not that we do not have laws, but the issue with Nigeria is enforcement of our laws, right? I mean, there's so many laws that majority of the Nigerians are not even aware of. Things like excessive force by armed men and all of things. These things are covered under so many laws, right? But our problem in Nigeria is enforcement. And that is why I say change starts from within. For example, there are so many things that happen in Nigeria that people blame the president for. the president cannot be in every situation at every time. He has to delegate power, right? So when he delegates power, there's a chain of causation, right, of things happening. So if the person that he delegated the power to decides to do something else that he didn't plan, of course we're going to blame him for that. But did we look at that person that he delegated the power to? So I like us to be realistic and also push for implementation. That's why even in these upcoming elections, what most people tend to focus on is just who's going to be president. Most people are not even concerned about who's going to be in the National Assembly.
You know why,
the
right?
most important roles.
You know why, right? Because in the radar of things, Nigeria is just functioning from president downwards.
Federal. But we're in a time where
And
we are
you
even
also
pushing...
heard what the president said, right? That they should hold the governors liable, that they're the ones causing poverty. You heard that? And he was the one that told us that he's corruption voodoozer. He's coming to voodoo's corruption. So you give them that money, knowing that they have immunity clause on them, nobody touches them. And you're now telling the poor masses to go and cut them. Which leg do we have? Do you understand?
Yeah.
So everybody is saying the president because that is where it's flowing. The way things, I think, should work is states should contribute to the center, decentralized power. When the president is absolute, everybody's looking at the president, concerned about the president.
Yeah.
That is just that. And the governors make excuses, and local government chairmen, they make excuses because they know power is in the center. Do you understand why people now call for devolution of power? So, okay, let's move forward to you talked about election, and that brings us to Nigeria. We are in a point where Nigeria is on a journey.
Yes.
We do not know where it's going, but we are praying it goes the right direction. Okay, so having said that, we're on it. So what do you expect in 2023?
In terms of?
Presidency.
I expect a new Nigeria, a better Nigeria, a focused Nigeria, a more driven Nigeria, a Nigeria where we as the masses, the youth, can prosper. Those are my expectations for Nigeria.
Okay, so who do you think can give us that Nigeria?
I'm not going to influence the voters' choice. I'm not going to stand
No, it's your choice I'm talking about.
You want to know who my choice is? I'll keep my choice to myself.
You want to keep it personal?
Yes, now. Even when we go to vote, we don't carry out voters' card. I'm sure
secret ballot, have you? So what are the things you've mentioned? Do you think any of them is capable of giving us this list? This is Prada's list.
Yes.
And if it's ticked and checked, Nigeria is better. Do you think, because you're a very intelligent person, looking at the three of them, three most, they are not only three, most viable,
Yeah.
which do you think has...
I think each and every candidate has their pros and cons, their advantages and disadvantages, right? I think it's left for the masses to go out there, look at the manifestos that they've published, look at their plan for Nigeria and how they actually plan to actualize it, and decide who they want to vote for. I don't think I can say for a fact that this is the person that I'm going with. I'm analyzing the manifestos. I'm looking, I'm thinking, how are they working towards their manifestos? What are their plans? Are their manifestos realistic? That is what I'm going through as an educated person, and I'll eventually make my decision.
You've made already?
I will eventually make my decision.
Eventually. Please, will you tell me when you make?
Maybe.
All right, so family, how do you put it together? Work, being a lawyer, family, everything.
It can be exhausting. Like I said, when I walked in here, I'm exhausted right now. I'm coming from the call to bar ceremony of the hashtag PUSG 2021. Aspirants. I just got called today, so I'm elated. It feels fantastic that things have actually materialized. We have 5 lawyers that we're able to sponsor under the platform, so I'm happy. But sometimes, balancing a bit of everything, the humanitarian side, the legal side, can be daunting. So I tend to take breaks, relax. But I think I get the most satisfaction from fulfillment. Everything I do brings me fulfillment, so I don't think I'll stop doing it. I think you just have to find a way to balance your time, balance your energy, and do what feels right.
Being born into a privileged family, what is your most challenge?
Expectations. I think, and this is a very sensitive topic that most people don't like to talk about. I'd like to say this now. For example, if Cristiano Ronaldo was to have a son, and he was to ever kick a ball, people would expect him to be as fantastic or perfect as his father. So the expectations of privilege actually affect the product, you know. But every situation has its ups and downs. It's how we manage them that determines our end goal. So I think I'm managing mine perfectly fine.
Okay, so who is your role model?
I have different role models.
The people you look up, maybe one or two. people you look up to.
Chimamanda Adichie, Okonjo-Iweala. You know, I look at women that are driven, women that have defied all odds, and I think those two are an
Stands
example of
out.
people that have driven, you know, defied all odds.
So one day you want to see yourself in that echelon?
Possibly. Well, I always aspire to be better.
Yeah,
You know.
like, I mean, from there on.
Yes, yes.
Because you
yes.
have age on your side, so you're going to do better.
By God's grace.
Okay, that's great. And I'm so happy having you.
Thank you for having
I
me.
really do appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you're doing for the indigent people, the people who cannot, who've lost hope. Because I think until you dream a dream and see it squashed, you will not understand how shattering it is. Then when you come and lift those people who think it's not for me, and you give them that hope, we really do appreciate you.
Thank you.
Let's hope for the best. And thank you for watching. And do drop your comment section. Do drop your comment on the comment section. Like this video, share this video, and I hope you've learned something that you can also inspire people in your little way. She did not become a billionaire before doing this great NGO stuff. So you could, whatever idea it is, put it together and hope, faith, you're going to lift somebody up. Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you for having me.